in line with best practice. But one day I got a phone call and this lovely lady said, "My name's Heather Townsend and I hear you using my content at your workshops." She said, "I'm incredibly humbled and I'm very grateful, thank you so much." And that was the start of our ongoing relationship. And I must admit also, Heather, apologies, it's taken me 3 years to travel north of Watford Gap and to actually come and visit us in Newcastle. And the weather's not brilliant either. No. It's 30 degrees down south, so she's feeling the chill a little bit today. But Heather's book, The Go-To Expert, is exceptional, and it's not only made a huge difference to my business, but it's work that I've integrated into all of the work that I do with clients. And many of you will have heard me talking at length about becoming the go-to expert in your field, and how this work can make a significant difference to your business. So it's not only a fantastic methodology, it has been proven over years to work and bring in results. Now Heather's made quite a name for herself, and she specialises very much in working with professionals, and in particular with accountancy practices, and she had the honour of being awarded the #1 influencer,
yes,
online influencer in 2015 for the ICAEW, which will mean an awful lot to those of you in the financial professions in the room. So Heather has quite a remarkable reputation globally. She's now working all over the world with different clients, and I am certainly looking forward very much this morning to an excellent presentation, and I hope you enjoy it and find it incredibly productive. So thank you very much for joining us, and over to Heather.
Basically mine does. And part of the problem is when you know that your marketplace is this wide, there's that little voice in your head that says, we need to go after this much, don't we? But the problem is when you go after this much, and you don't focus your messages on this much, how well do your messages land? They don't, do they? Absolutely, they just tend to crash and burn. But particularly those, I was working with my coach recently, and she said, Heather, you have a freelancer mindset. And my first instinct was to go, no, you're wrong. And then I went, yeah, you're right. And when you've got that sort of freelancer instinct mindset, whether you've been through that large depression in 2009, 2008, 2010, you're always worried where the next piece of work's coming from, aren't you? And so your instinct says, let's make it as wide as possible, because that's going to help me get all the work I need in. And in fact, it actually has the opposite effect. Actually, the narrower you go, the easier it is to win work. And I look back at my own business, I look back at my clients' businesses, when they've taken the decision to go narrow, to go deep within that narrow niche, it is a point, a milestone where their business performance has changed. If you look at most of that list, it's because we're being too wide is our problems. As soon as you are very narrow and very focused, and of course as long as you're doing marketing, but clients tend to turn up. They come and find you, you don't find them. After all, why would I have spent 2 weeks this year doing 27 hours of one-to-one coaching in Australia from Bedfordshire? They sought me out because of my known expertise. And as I was saying to Nicholas, it was a killer getting up between at 4:30 in the morning for my first call at 5 o'clock, but it paid well. So why would they do that? Because we're bringing more than just that. The next thing is, how many of you own your own business here? How many of you remember the euphoria of starting up your own business and thinking, thank God I don't have a boss anymore? That's the best thing, is it? You don't have a boss anymore. But how many of you realise that's the worst thing? Because it's about that accountability. It's only you that's going to get yourself out of bed. And I know if you're anything like me, I tend to gravitate to the stuff I like doing. You know, my comfort zone, if it's a bit light in the pipeline, is I'll write a blog post. I'll put something on LinkedIn. That's my comfort zone. If any of you have seen how much content I provide, you realise that's my comfort zone. But actually, I probably do a bit better at picking the phone up. I probably do a bit better at making it more consistent. And it's the second reason that we've got these business development challenges. We often don't have the accountability. We don't have that proverbial boss, maybe a buddy or a peer that's making us do the stuff that we need to do, which is why we kind of, when we're really busy, we neglect business development. Anybody do that? I know I had a 6-month hole in my pipeline, it was uncomfortable. After 3 years of being maxed out, I needed a bit of a break. But you know, when we're busy, we often let the business development slide. What does that lead to? That leads to feast and famine. That leads to the wrong kind of leads. That leads to your challenge of, we've got too many leads, so we don't really pre-qualify them well enough, we don't really follow them up, and then we wonder where they've all gone. And it's very hard picking up a cold lead again. So we've got all of these business development challenges. But if you take a step back and go, what are the 2 fundamental reasons for them? One is we're not targeted enough, and 2 is we don't have the accountability. And I'll put a third, and it kind of comes on the accountability. If you are the business, you've got to have the time to do this. You know, how much time are you spending every week that you know you're going to put on business development? So I know that Andrew does, because he's an insolvency practitioner. You've donated your liver to the cause, am I right? Absolutely. And you know that it's about lunching, it's about coffees, and that's the insolvency mindset. I'm not saying that you all need to become insolvency practitioners, because it would be a very strange world if we did, but that mindset of actually being able to always be marketing is what we need to get. So let's look at how does the client now buy differently. So these are some stats that were the FD client, Effective Client Advisory Report in 2012. So you could say that's 5 years ago. Actually, these are still relevant. And I'd actually say the numbers have got more accentuated since that point. But they found that 67% of clients wanted to work with a professional advisor that really understood their world. 40% then went one step further and said, it's in my top 3 buying criteria that they really understand and they really get my world. So you're already thinking that if there's 67% of the marketplace out there is looking for a specialist, are you specialist enough? And then Hinge Research Institute. So these are an American outfit. They do some very, very good quality research. And what they looked at, and they called it the highly visible expert, but the same thing, and they did some research. And I, me being me and my experience, thought it's all about premium rates. Actually, there's only 3% that really talked about premium rates as the biggest benefit. 49% talked about business growth. And I kind of get that. And it was interesting, I was reading just this very morning that Gartner, I think it's the CEB, have just released some research. So just quick kind of check. How many of you really focus on client service as a way of growing your client accounts? Did you know that that's ineffective? That's what the research said. If you service your clients well, you'll retain their business. You won't grow it. And my first thought was poppycock. I actually thought this has got to be wrong, but then they explained it. If you service them well, and you're good and responsive, you'll retain their business. So if you've got 50 grand with one client, they'll reward it to you another year, 50 grand, but you won't necessarily get them up to that 150 grand client. You won't necessarily get deeper into the client. The only way you can do that, and this is what their research said, was understanding their world, giving them challenge, adding value, and going beyond your original remit. And this suddenly made a lot of sense to me. That unless you've got that mile deep expertise, inch wide, mile deep, how can you give them that extra value? How can you become that cliche phrase of that trusted advisor? And it made such a lot of sense to me that actually, if you've got a business strategy of getting an account and then growing that account, you need to be able to bring more to the table than what you were originally asked to do. Does that make sense? Makes sense. And anybody familiar with the Google Zero Moment of Truth research? Joanne's just nodding at me. Those of you who are not, this all came about, I think it's P&G, like 30, 40 years, did something about the first moment of truth, which was about where the shelf, the consumer gets to the shelf, and that is the moment of truth. There is now a zero moment of truth. Quick question to you. You've got a question, you've got something you want to find out, you've got a question. What's the first thing you do? Google it. We Google it. And so Google provides that first moment of truth, or the zero moment of truth. But because we've been educated that Google will provide the answer, people are now coming to us professionals, us business owners, a lot later in their sales cycle. In effect, we've moved from a buyer beware to a seller beware. I know that I kind of fell under a little bit of pressure when a lot of people said, well, I've read your stuff, I know you're good. I was like, okay. But in effect, our clients are meeting us before we meet them. My question is, what do you have on your welcome mat? And is it giving them the right answers to their questions? And that's quite important because I'm going to come on to the buying journey very shortly. Now, I can see people are writing stuff down. I'm hoping, am I giving you ideas? The next thing is this popped up, and my apologies, we had a little bit of AB, so I'm just going to read it to you. This popped up on my LinkedIn newsfeed about a couple of weeks ago, and I nabbed it, and I'm just going to read it to you. It is a private medical insurance broker, and I did make sure they weren't based in the Northeast. It said, I have a general question for, well, anybody to be frank. I've been on LinkedIn for the past 12 months and have made regular posts advertising my services and really highlighting that my service is very personable and importantly knowledgeable. Despite a year of what I would deem professional and efficient posts, I have not had the effectiveness expected. Does anybody have any pointers or other mediums I could try to be more effective? He's marketing like it's 1997, isn't he? That's the challenge. Is that so many of us go, great, I can talk to so many of my customers' clients through social media, I can tell them how great I am, and we push our message onto them, and we forget that this is a permission medium, that people have a choice whether they want to listen to us or not. As a result, that's why it wasn't effective. Because if you go and type a tweet that says, does anybody need a new website? Does anybody think of changing supplier with their utilities? How effective is that? You might as well whistle in the wind for all that's happening. It's like pushing water uphill with a sieve. It just doesn't work. And that's because buyer behaviours have changed. It's about seller beware. And I do a lot of work with people that I would call unnatural salespeople. Anybody that's an unnatural salesperson here? Hell, apart from the few BDMs out there, we didn't wake up in the morning when we're 18 and go, I'm going to be a salesperson, did we? In fact, if somebody told us that what we'd become, we would have run a mile, wouldn't we? I definitely would have done. I don't have a shiny suit. I don't have shiny shoes. It's not me. My mother wouldn't let me have shiny shoes because they got scuffed quickly. In fact, I bought my first pair of shiny shoes just recently and I felt very brave, very old, very grown up. Let me go back. So actually we've got the challenge where a lot of us are still marketing like it's 1997. And actually what we often do, because I was speaking with, I think was it Nicholas? I can't remember who I was speaking with. It says, we often market the way our sector markets and we need some new ideas. Was that Philip talking about that? Philip, yes. We do what our sector does and we follow the herd. And actually some of this stuff isn't right. You know, one of the classic myths that's not right is how many people have subscribed to the view that you've just got to ask the referral? You want more business? Just ask the referral. Is that right? Come, put your green card up if you think that's right, your red card if you think it's wrong. There's a lot of, and Arthur's hedging his bets, aren't you, Arthur? Put up both. So we've got a really mixed room. I'm going to tell you now, and you might say it's semantic, that does not work. If that works, I could go up to Joanne, and say, Joanne, you're sitting there nodding, you love my stuff, who do you know needs my help? And Joanne would look like me like, oh my God, this is embarrassing. Am I right? She's now looking at me like, oh my God, this is embarrassing. But I shouldn't I'm not a comedian. You can sit at the front, it's fine. But you know, it doesn't work if you go up to someone and say, can you give me some business? It just doesn't work. Unfortunately, a lot of the profession has built their referral advice on just ask for the referral. You know, if you've done good work for the client, just ask for the referral. It's not our client's job to provide us with new business. That's not what they signed up to do. And this is part of what I call some of the myths that are circulating from that previous era, where it was more simple, and people only knew one accountant or a couple of lawyers, and actually it wasn't as easy to move. So as you can see, we've had a fundamental shift ever since social media has happened, and we've got this amazing connectivity and this amazing searchability. And actually, this is how people buy. They buy from the buying journey. And let me give you a bit of background to this. So I think it was quite a long time ago, but a guy called Neil Rackham. Anybody know the name Neil Rackham? Spin selling? Anybody heard that? Yep, some of you know. He was asked by Xerox, I think, to do some research, and they wanted to find out what did the best sales people do. So Neil and his team, they went and read all the books on sales at the time. There wasn't many. They went to all the sales courses around the world that they could physically get themselves on. It took a bit of time, but they read all of that. And then they went and asked the salespeople. And they discounted 50% because they didn't know what they were doing that made them successful. They then discounted out of that smaller group half of them, because when they observed them, they didn't actually do what they said they did that made them successful. They then took out of that even smaller, they then took half of them, because they did do what they said they did, but it actually made the situation worse. So we only have, if my maths is right, about 25%, have I made it right? For those that are better at numbers than me, you can tell whether I'm right. If not, let's just go with it, really tiny bit. And what they discovered was that the best salespeople don't sell. They help their clients buy. And that's a philosophy that the go-to expert is based upon. It's not about selling, it's about actually helping your clients buy. And this is what they found. They found that the best salespeople, and this still works today, were very good at matching their activities to the buying journey of their clients. The first stage is about status quo. Everything's fine in your world. The sun is shining. Here it does shine up here. The sun is shining, everything's fine in your world. You could argue in today's fast-paced, ever-changing, disruptive world that nobody's ever in status quo. I probably agree with you. Although, if you're in insolvency practice, there are definitely some people in status quo. But normally, somebody's got a problem, a need, a niggle. So how many of you own your own house or apartment? Quite a few of you. How many of you is it absolutely perfect? Oh, that's a bit strange. Not absolutely perfect. So all of you, there's something that needs to be done with your house, am I right? So how many of you are doing something or moving? Oh, we've got a few hands, but it's not half the room. It's not the whole room. And that's the thing. is that a lot of us are in problems and needs. It's like with the house, we've got to be motivated enough to actually do something about it. But we're at this stage, we're thinking, is this a real problem? Do I need to know about it? And we go and research. It's like the the damp patch in the ceiling that we all get. You go onto the internet and go, do I need to be worried or can I ignore it? Can I put just a bit of paint over it? Will it be fine? And typically when people are in problem needs, they are asking questions. And this is where they'll often go to the internet. So do you have some of those answers in your web presence? We've got a couple of them, but if you're going to really engage the future buyers, the buyers that we want to engage, the right type of clients, we need the right type of content. But it's not just about the right type of content, it's about content that is very specific to their requirements. And one of the things that we do on the Go To Expert program is really help you get down and deep into your clients and their world and what they're looking for so that you can sell them the stuff they want to buy. And when we're in problem needs, what we're really doing is trying to find out, do we need to do something about it? And if we've got a big enough pain point, and we will talk about that on the Go To Expert program, if we've got a big enough pain point, we will do something about it. And far too often, our business development doesn't work because it's not a big enough pain point to get over the inertia that our clients have. I know that the only reason I changed my accountant recently was because my business partner announced he was resigning. Well, he was retiring. That's a pretty big, change. But we were kind of making do otherwise. And so actually you've got to get over the inertia. Inertia is your biggest competitor, not your competitor down the road, the inertia of your clients to do something. So when people get to defining outcome, they know the outcome they need. So let's go to the house example. I know that I'm going to move house because I want it for better schools. But at this stage, I don't know how I'm going to get there. So at this stage, my questions go very, very tactical. How long is it going to take? What do I need to factor in? What's the worst that could happen to me? Is it better to get removal met? Very, very tactical stuff. But we still yet, have you noticed we've not talked to a supplier yet in this? And it's at this point that we will put together our supplier selection criteria. Who do we want to be working with? What attributes will they have? We will then go out and start talking to suppliers and start assessing them and thinking about the solution. And then we'll take the decision to buy. But if you look at any accountants, lawyers, potentially consultants' website, I tend not to look at other people's websites, so please feel as if I'm not leaving you out, is that they focus their messages on people that are ready to buy right now, that are in the assessing a solution phase, supplier criteria. And if you look at the vast majority of what we put out in our content, we're putting it out to committed buyers. But the reality is when you only focus your marketing on committed buyers, is that there's 3 other professionals they're talking to at the same time. There's 3 other web companies, there's 3 other florists. They're already talking to other people. And that's what Rackham's research found, was the most effective salespeople are talking to them way back in the buying journey. They're talking to them in status quo, the problems and needs, in the defining the outcome. So that when they get to the lead appearing, they're the only person that they're talking to. They've got the trust. They can generate the business at a high level. And this is the reality. Within the Go To Expert program, we're going to dig into far more of how you can exploit your knowledge of your client's buying journey to make your business development activities balanced and effective. So I just want you to turn to your neighbour. And I want you just to discuss being honest, being very honest, but where is the lion's share of your business development activity focused within the client's buying journey? So just turn to your neighbour, quick discussion. Where is the lion's share of the activity focused? going to be a brave soul? I don't bite. Even though Joanne says she regrets now sitting in the front row. Who's been brave soul? Where, just put your hand up. Where are you focusing on marketing or business development? Arthur.
Normally, I suppose at the moment it's more where they start to explore their options
Yeah.
when they realise they've started to get an issue or potential issue.
Yeah.
And so you're far down the journey, I think, looking at that.
Oh, so you're in the problems and needs?
No, sort of for us, it will be
You're right.
kind of someone's identified that perhaps got some marketing requirement, or their marketing isn't working, so they've already started something which is failing. And
Yeah, so they're already assessing options.
Yeah.
By which point you might find that they're not just talking to you.
Yes.
And you think, what else? Who else is brave as well as Arthur?
I found it fascinating to identify the two separate streams of work. So you've got marketing people delivering effectively problems and needs content and being the right way you'd like them to be earlier in the journey. But actually business development people having a different mindset, almost not in the digital age.
Yeah.
So they're leaning on older, more traditional methods. So
Yes.
further down, further up.
They're marketing like
Yeah,
1997.
exactly.
Yeah.
So actually two people in the same team.
Yeah, and one of the challenges we face is if you're lucky enough to be in an organisation where you've got defined marketing people, defined sales people, is to bring this together. Absolutely, because we're not in an age where salespeople's job is to close the lead. We're not in that age anymore. We've moved on. We've moved on from the time where you just need to ask for a referral. We've moved on from the time where if you want to win business, you've just got to get yourself out there. Who's heard that? That's what people told me. Shows that I spent too long with accountants, because that's what they told me. Now, interesting, someone like, that's not David, it's Andrew. Somebody like Andrew actually has a difficult challenge. And you've also got to think about your buying journey, about what your route to market is. So if you sell a distressed service, how many people in the room sell a distressed service? Apart from Andrew. A couple here. Is you can't ring someone up and go, is your business failing? Should we have a chat? Can you? You just can't do that. You have to go through referrals. And part of what we do on the Go to Expert program is show how to maximise that relationship with your referrers, how to overcome that referral friction, and exactly what content you need where in order to make sure you're top of mind with your referrers, but also you've got the welcome mat for when the end client, because they will look at your website, because these days a referral doesn't mean to say you've got the work anymore, does it? A referral means to say they'll look at your website and decide whether to contact you. Because you still need to get that welcome mat right. So it's crucial, and we could spend half a day on the buying journey, but you've got homes and businesses to go to, on actually how do you use that knowledge. And that's what we do in the Go to Expert program, is you really start to look in depth. So how many of you, get your red card, green card, put a green card up if you're getting good ideas, put a red card up if you still want more ideas. Too many reds. Okay, some more ideas are coming. I hear that. I hear that. I'm not sure I told you much about my journey. How many of you know that The Go-To Expert was the third book I wrote? I had small children at the time. I needed something else. But the first book I wrote was the Financial Times Guide to Business Networking. And some people might say that getting made redundant at the height of the deepest, darkest global economic recession that the world has ever known is damn bad luck. Am I right? Some people might even say that getting made redundant in that climate, when there is no other jobs because your marketplace is shedding your roles like there's a phrase there, but it's shedding your roles like you're going out of fashion, is mightily bad luck, all right? So two, it's bad luck. So there I am. But well, I wanted to go on my own. It's time now to go on my own. But there's a third bit of bad luck here. Well, there's four bits of bad luck, but there's a third bit of bad luck. Is that I was in training. I still am in learning development, supposedly. What do companies do, big companies that can afford expensive people like me, do in times of recession? They cut the training budget, don't they?
And marketing.
And marketing, yes, Joanne, yes, and marketing. Yeah. So there am I. The thing I'm selling, nobody's got a budget to buy. There isn't any jobs out there, and it's the deepest, darkest recession. Anybody think that I was incredibly unlucky?
No.
I think I was very lucky, actually, because I got a very small bit of capital to support me. Too small in my words, but it was at least a small bit of capital. I was also very privileged to be at the forefront of social media adoption in the UK. So it was in January 2009 that Stephen Fry got stuck in the lift, and he started tweeting. And it was at that point that Twitter caught the mainstream appeal within the UK. In April, I went, because also people said when I said, oh, I'm going to start my own business, I'm going to be an external coach and trainer. And they said the wonderful words to me, great, how are you going to market? I said, I'm going to do a good job and people are going to come to me. How naive was I? So it was beginning to dawn to me that just because I set up a website that said coach and trainer, that it wasn't going to happen. So I went along to, it wasn't a for networking, it was a best of. Do we still have best of up here? Did it ever get up here, the best of? It was, supposedly all around, but it was one of those best of events where, you go to a local networking event, there's an esteemed speaker, and you go and chat. And you listen to the speaker, and if you're lucky, you come away with some good stuff. And it was a speaker talking about introduction to social networking, social media. And he said to me the immortal words, he said to the whole group, he said the immortal words of, if you blog and get on Twitter, work will just come to you. So me being naive, and at the time my kids were 1 and 2, they were really down here. Me being naive, thought, I'll do a bit of that. I can write, I can tweet, let's do a bit of that. So I did a bit of that. 9 months later, I had enough business that I was sending it out to 4 coaches. But I got in the back of my mind that the best independent trainers all had a book to their name. So I knew I was going to have a book to my name. And so I was really aware, because I went out to these networking events, I did the speaking thing, and I wanted to talk about team and leadership. And everybody else wanted me to talk about Twitter. I was like, that's not right. So I thought, there's something here. There's a problem here. And what I realised was in the marketplace. We had the social media types, which if any of you are one of those, and were one of those back in 2009, they were basically over in the corner having a party. Because that's what they did, because they were creatives, digital, new media. We then had what I would call the professions. You know who I'm talking about? The accountants, the lawyers, the IFAs, who were going, it's not going to last, it's a fad, you can't do business without being face to face. I'm sure there's some of you that are still thinking that. And then you had a group of people that were quite introverted like me that thought, ooh, I can get to everybody using social media, I don't have to pick up the phone anymore. And saying, no, offline networking is going. And I sat back and I realised that most people were getting it wrong. So if you get your networking strategy right, and you get the right tool for the right job, and some of that's going to be offline, some of that's going to be online, you're never going to shake deal on a 100k contract without some whites of the eye stuff. But each tool has its place in the business development journey. So I set about blogging about that, going to write a book about it, because I realised if I read a networking book, it was either how do I shake hands and not embarrass myself, or it was the BNI type, very strategically asked for referral, it'll happen, here's how you do it in the room, here's the 52-week plan in order to do it. But there was nothing that really embraced online as a viable tool that should be there. So I set out to write the book, Joined Up Networking. That was what I was going to do. So I thought, right, I've got to walk my walk, talk my talk, so I blogged about it, I tweeted about it, and the editor got in touch with me and said, would you write a book for us? I said, go on then. So I filled in my book proposal, took ages, I sent it to them, she said, oh, I love it, got to go to the publishing board, went to the publishing board, she rang me and she said, we love it, we want to make one change. I've been warned about this, one change. She said, yes, we're not going to call it Joined Up Networking, we want to call it the Financial Times Guide to Business Networking. Is that all right? And for a millisecond I thought, no! And then luckily I came to my senses and thought, hang on a minute, the most established, trusted business brand with my name, I'd be stupid not to. So I wrote the FT Guide to Business Networking. And I can tell you, if you're writing a book, if you've got a targeted network on Twitter and you talk about 18 months about what's going to be in your book, and it's something they really need, you will sell a lot of books. And that's what I did. And so it sold 5,000 books within its first year. It was reprinted within 3 months, which was an absolute record, to the point that the head of the commissioning editors took me out for lunch. You know your book is doing well when the commissioning editor does that. But I got increasingly interested, that I stand by everything I wrote in that book, but I got increasingly interested in why were some people doing really, really well, and why were some people just doing okay when they followed that book? What was the missing ingredient? And I became fixated that there was a missing ingredient. What had I missed? And that was how the Go-To Expert came about, because I realised that what we often do when we're doing our business development is we follow that myth of you just got to get your name out there, don't we? You know, you set up a new business, you become a BDM, what do? First thing you do is you get out there, don't you? We fall into that trap of getting our message out there. As a result, we miss the 2 steps you need to do before you get your message out there. This is a core philosophy behind the Go-To Expert. This is the roadmap in very simple terms of what we take you through. The first thing is define your niche, or if you still want to be broad, what's your target market? What's your hunting niche? What are you focusing your marketing on? Because more often than not, we don't do that first step properly. I've seen some people going, yep, I know what my market is. I go, have you asked them what they need? They go, no, because I know what my market needs. That's not doing it. The first thing is really define who you're going to go after. If you try and go after everyone, who will you get? No one. Very, very true. The second step that people then don't do is actually make yourself irresistible to your clients. You know, help them buy from you, don't go out and sell. You know, think about that welcome mat of your LinkedIn profile. Do you know 80% of people look at your LinkedIn profile in that decision to buy? How many of you are now thinking I need to do my LinkedIn profile? But you know, these things is if you don't have the right welcome mat, you don't have the right content, if you've not got the right features to your service, and how many of you sell a service that many of your competitors sell pretty much exactly the same? You know, how are you putting the features of your service so it's different? I can only talk about some of the world that I work in, but some of the accountants I work with have tailored their package names to resonate with their end clients. Some of the lawyers I've worked with have changed how they deliver their service to match their end clients. So one of my lawyers in my network specialises in hard of hearing. You can actually engage with them via Skype text. I've never known a lawyer that you can do that. So they will sit there and have a Skype text-based conversation for their hard of hearing clients. So if we really think about what are my clients' needs, what do I actually need? Quick question, how many of you have done a client portfolio analysis in the last 6 months? Good to see some hands. The rest of you are thinking, damn. Because if we're not looking at who is our client base, who are the right people that we should be focusing on, we're going to be getting ineffective marketing. And every time I've done a client portfolio analysis and got deeper and deeper into my client's needs, I get more and more business the other side. So that's the first step on the Go-To Expert program. Is we go into, we look at the client portfolio analysis, we look at tests that you can use to choose your niche, and we support you to make what is often a brown pants decision. People familiar with brown pants decisions? Yeah, well, if you get them wrong, but you know you need to take a risk. The second step is how do you package your brand? How do you make yourself irresistible? And this is where we go through the buying journey in a lot of depth. We look at your service proposition. We look at actually what do your clients want to buy rather than what do you want to sell. We look at how to do your client-based research. We will help you pull together client personas that really zoom in on exactly the type of people that you want to attract so that you can then take the decision to make sure that you're offering what they want to buy. And then finally, we go to the third step, which is about getting your message out there. How many of you predominantly get most of your new work by referral? That's my world. That's one I inhibit. Good to see that not everybody does. But yes, so it's not just about networking, not just about how you get stuff from existing clients, new clients, but we look at all the routes to market within that step and how do you get the most out of that. That's what we're looking for there. We look at the service framework, we look at the DUF framework, we look at kind of lots of different things, tactical marketing plans. And interestingly, when we've helped people with a tactical marketing plan, typically that is the cornerstone of why their new business doubles or triples within a couple of years. That's what we'll be looking at, and that's what we look at in depth. I don't have time to go into it today. So the next step is, let's look at some quick wins. We've got a lot of people here in the room. Be very interested. So have a chat with your neighbour. What are your best quick wins to win business? Because after all, some of us probably need some business now. You haven't got time to wait, to make the phone call, to do this, to do that. What's your best quick win? Talk to your neighbour. What's your best quick win? Let's start at the back. Who wants to share one of their best tips? And this is where everybody looks at me. What? Who wants to share something at the back? Yeah, go for it.
We've just been talking about keeping things regional, which I know is kind of contradicting what you, maybe contradicting what you said, but we seem to live in a global world. We think, especially in the northeast, that we get more benefit from dealing in a regional way, on a face-to-face. And I know I've got both the social media and the actual face-to-face. And it's kind of took this with my generation, we've kind of gone into knowledge overload, so we have to have...
It's everywhere, isn't it? You can't get away from it.
Yeah, so we think, in our little group here, that kind of regional is good for us.
And it's a really interesting point there, because one of my first accountancy clients came from Newcastle, and we focused her proposition around not just Newcastle, but her little bits of Newcastle, and actually it was part of her story. The way we packaged it was that, the big guys don't want to know you. Come to us, you'll get affordable fees, but you'll also get that service that you've not had, and we'll come to your kitchen table or your favourite coffee shop. And they made it hyper-local. So I completely agree with you that one way to differentiate yourself is to go hyper-local.
I think the regional point of view, something like that, makes it sincere.
Yes.
And I think sincerity, it always wins out in the end. If you try to be false and try to sell somebody something that you can't deliver on, you'll be found out in the end. So I think being regional and being sincere.
Yes. Yeah. If it works for your niche, your target market. A very successful lawyer I know just works with Edgbaston, that little bit of Birmingham, and they've got car parking. They have they're private clients, so many of their clients unfortunately come to them and they help them have a good death. Sorry to bring the tone down, but yeah, they are very, very focused on that local marketplace, and they've got all the local connections, and they've built that marketing really local. And I think when you go regional, as long as you do it on purpose and put everything else into it, you're great. But too often, we don't do that. We don't do that second step. We just go, well, we're going to go local businesses. And we really don't think about how do we package ourselves as what they do, which is why so many of us that are focusing on local business don't get that benefit. But great tip. Right, next row at the back, what's a tip you'd like to share?
I said social media. We sometimes put an event out there, and if we're thinking we need a few more bums on seats, we'll just put a kind of a big shout out on Twitter, Facebook, whatever it might be, and saying, obviously just kind of give it that extra push.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we do that a lot.
And I agree with you, Matthew. It's about the mixture of both. It's not about social media or face-to-face. It's about and I think it's about using both of those. What about over here? Some quick wins over here.
Phone calls.
Yeah.
Phone calls to influencers rather than directly to clients, but
Yeah.
to influencers who
Yeah.
can speak to clients.
Yeah, we have lost the art of picking up the phone, haven't we? You know, we're bombarded by messages that said you have to tweet, you have to WhatsApp. I've just discovered WhatsApp, by the way, because I'm down with the kids. But, you know, one of the ways to get quick business is pick up the phone. But not just pick up the phone to influencers. Because when I talk to people, I often have a graph and I show a pie chart. And I say that, you know, 80% of that pie chart is people that don't need your business. 25% of that pie chart is people that are in status quo of problems and needs. There's only a really small sliver that's hot and ready to buy. But who are the people that know the hot and ready to buy? It's the influencers. It's the influencers that can get you straight to that without having to keep going fishing in a really big pond. You can go and shoot fish in a barrel by going through the influencers and having that. So I completely agree. Pick up the phone. If you're thinking what pipeline looks like, get onto the phone. Go to the influencers. The next thing is go to your existing clients. These are the people that trust you. These are the people that rate you. These are the people that actually, a phone call is just going to nudge them over to, oh, one more thing, can you help me with? You know, how many times have you picked up the phone to someone and they say, I was just about to call you? How do you believe them? But it's a very active, you being proactive, it's just about to call you, and suddenly it looks a little bit more positive. That's my number one tip. If you're sitting there and going, this is all very well, but I need business. Now, get on the phone. Absolutely get on the phone. Great tip there. What about over here? What other tips have you got over here? They're in the middle.
Talk about cross-referral within your organisation. Because you've already, I think you touched on it slightly there, with, you've got people already who've been buying from you,
Yeah.
then it's to try and sell them something else that your organisation sells.
Absolutely. And me being simple cannot understand why most of the partnerships I work with don't do this by process. It's stupid, isn't it? But you've got, let's take a solicitor, because they're probably the worst at this. Is you've got somebody who comes in and they want to buy or sell a house. Very typical. But how many solicitors then do a little bit of a checklist and go, do you have a will sorted? Have you got this insurance sorted? Have you got that insurance sorted? They don't even go to the question to go, what's prompted the sale? And you just need to ask that one more question, and before you know it, the small client becomes a bigger client, which seems to be a lot more positive. So particularly, and you might be going, how many of you are going, but I'm a one-person business, it doesn't work? Remember that there are other people in your network that can become your cross-referral network. Because I know that every time I speak with an accountant and they talk about outsourcing, I go, where are you on that journey? Would you like to speak to my outsourcing client? So how can you become that referral network, both for your clients as well as yourself? And always ask that next question. Be curious. Great tip there. What about over here? What are your quick wins?
I've built up a network over the years of others that I collaborate with on a regular basis. And we'll all be quite open with each other about how, I suppose, how good or bad business is.
Yes.
And so we'll get on the blower to each other as well as to customers.
Yeah.
And kind of sell each other in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, we don't need to be doing this on our own,
No.
even if we're a one-person business. You know, build your sales team, whether they're paid or unpaid around you. Absolutely. What about over here? What's a quick win over here?
I think we've got a quick win from working in a niche market.
Yeah.
Sell a product, and it's got to be more personal because we've got to convince the people that they need to buy. And we've got to give them time. I think we get a quick win. And actually the mass market is growing.
thing here is experiment with what works. Now, I find it personally with my marketplace really difficult to get physical bums on seats, but really easy to get virtual bums on seats. Whereas Norma's proved to me today, I've got a lot to learn from her about getting physical bums on seats. So, experiment. Don't be afraid to go outside of your comfort zone. And I'm just about to experiment in pay-per-click with Facebook ads and whatever, whereas previously I've got all my email sign-ups organically. I'd like to be able to turn on the tap a bit more and turn it off a bit more at the point I want to launch a program. So experiment. Don't always stick to what you know, learn from others. So what about here at the front? I've asked.
I think I'm that guy that wanted to be a sales guy when he was 18, so that's me. So for 20 years, the thing that's, I think I probably touched on it, the thing that's always worked for me when there wasn't enough leads or anything is to just identify 5 customers and go and see them.
Yeah.
And ask questions, get a conversation going. Guaranteed there'd be 1 or 2 opportunities come straight out of it.
I know. It is. Pick up the phone. It really works. And and one of the things I know I say to my clients is, particularly when they're starting up or maybe they've shifted gear, I borrowed this from Robert Craven, but it's the 60 and 60 days. Go and have 60 face-to-face conversational phone calls in 60 days. And you start with it and you go, because you can instantly reel off 10, so you get those happening. You then say to those 10, who else should I be speaking to? Can I pick your brains? Who else should I be speaking to? If you were me, get the go-ahead to go and talk to who they recommend, and before you go off, you get 60 very quickly. You'll also have a pipeline of business. It's a tough challenge, but if you're really serious about filling the pipeline, it's one way of doing it. So the phone call, absolutely, pick up that phone. That is your best work-winning asset. Use your local connections, as we said at the back. Use the fact that you're local if that's right for your business model. It's not particularly right for my business model, but it might be right for your business model. So make it personal with what you're doing. Second thing is, look at your pipeline, because there's probably some stuff that's gone cold. There's some stuff you've forgotten about. There's some stuff that's lurking at the bottom of your email inbox that you know you really should have got 2 months ago. Get to it. Go back over the pipeline, get back in touch. You will rattle some stuff out of there. Go and talk to your existing customers as well. And then finally, once you've done all of that, the third option is do a fire sale. And I'm not meaning burn down your premises to get the insurance. What I'm actually meaning is, many of you have probably got maybe some products, some services that may be just a little bit out of date, but that you could bundle together and sell very, very cheaply and just go big on. Particularly if you've got a lot of content. Could you bundle it together in a special one-off Groupon type package that the whole aim is to generate some cash quickly? But here are some ways in which you can quickly go out and win some business. Now, begin to think, what can I say? So how differentiated are you? So, like a couple of volunteers who feel that they're niched, looking over here because someone said they're niched. Tell us what your niche is, and let's see if the room thinks you're niche. You up for that?
We sell a software product that's used in labs, so it's probably quite different to what the services that
Yeah, so selling a software product that's used in labs. Put your green card up if you think that's niche, or your red card up if you don't think it's niche. And that, for me, is pretty niche.
It's really interesting, really beneficial, and I've taken away a few ideas that I'll definitely put into practice.
I found it really interesting. It was really good to have something that was a bit more focused on the service sector.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. Got some great tips. Really good to see so many businesses turning out. Nice to mix with the other businesses. But some really sort of original content that really made us think about how we approach engaging with potential customers and developing the customer base and focusing on what we're real strengths are. Yeah.
Absolutely, I think identifying the clients that we want to work with going forward. Obviously we want to work with all of our clients, but maybe the specific ones where we can build up a niche in that area, clients that have specific needs, maybe it's inheritance tax planning, or farmers who have agricultural assets, so maybe providing them with more information via our website.
We've always erred away from using social media, in particular Twitter and LinkedIn, because we're selling a service rather than a product, so something that doesn't look so good, you can't take a picture of it to promote it. But we found from that maybe blogging a bit more, we do some of the blogs, and we think that'll help grow our specialist areas.
Yeah, she certainly is. Yeah, lovely sort of pace delivery. Certainly knew her stuff, and certainly got the impression that her clients herself have got a lot of confidence in her.